Good evening and welcome to this special virtual event where we will chronicle the accomplishments of our umpires honored to work the 2022 NCAA Baseball Division II and Division III College World Series. My name is Dan Miller from United Umpires, and I will be your host for what promises to be a special evening. A special evening joined by five umpires, all with a unique journey. Five umpires, all with a unique story en route to the biggest stage NCAA baseball has to offer in Division II and Division III. From Glen Allen, Virginia, Jerry Boresh. From Dedham, Massachusetts, Mike Griffin. Justin Sims is from West Deptford, New Jersey. From Rochester, New York is Donnie Smith. And Steve Zawiski is from Forest City, Pennsylvania. Also joining us tonight are our coordinators. Of course, John Porter, Chris Marshall, Alex Skandalis, and the ODAC coordinator, Greg Walls. We also appreciate the presence of NCAA Baseball Division II National Coordinator, Scott Taylor. In terms of the format here this evening, each umpire will have a segment where we will hear from him and the coordinators. Each segment will be augmented by a video documenting each umpire's College World Series experience. A video that each of these umpires here tonight will be seeing for the very first time. Before we get started and introduce all of our umpires, we will first hear some introductory comments from our coordinators about what it truly means to be a College World Series umpire. Leading us off tonight will be John Porter. Of course, there is no one who celebrates the accomplishments of our umpires more than John. So John, get us started.
Every day of my world, I'm hearing from umpires who want to know how to succeed and how to get recognition and how to achieve what these people have tonight. And if anything, these guys that are highlighted tonight should be an example of how you get to where you need to get. And that is hard work, dedication, training, learn how to umpire, learn how to be the best you can. And sooner or later, you get what you want, at least within the realm of possibility for each person's individual capability. And so I'm so proud to see every year the people that are selected for postseason, and even more proud of how well they perform in the postseason. These guys are superstars in their world and in our world, and we're lucky to have them. Thank you very much, you guys.
Thank you, John. Chris Marshall worked the 2007 Division III College World Series. Chris, what stands out about your experience?
It was a lot of hard work and effort to get there, and it all, culminated with the national championship, being on the field, seeing a team with the trophy at time I'll never forget. And, I share the feelings that all these umpires have shared and know how much time and effort it went into getting to that position. So, I mean, what a great feeling. Certainly a highlight for me, and I'm sure for these guys as well. As far as a coordinator and one thing that I really enjoy in being a coordinator in this job is those phone calls of some of these guys, congratulating them, inviting them, telling them that they're going to a national championship or a conference tournament, and hearing the excitement in their voices, and then the stories that come along with after working the national championship. So really proud of these guys and the effort they've put into it and the job they've done, and certainly what's ahead of them in the future as well.
Well said, Chris. Thank you. Now joining us will be NCAA Baseball Division II National Coordinator, Scott Taylor. Multiple-time Division II College World Series umpire, Scott Taylor, by the way. As the national coordinator, many of you know, Scott has been someone who is absolutely authentically passionate when it comes to talking about his umpires and College World Series assignments. As we're about to embark on this evening, Scott, is it safe for me to assume that this passion remains?
Honestly, I was just fortunate to be there. And I tell that story a lot. I was just happy to be amongst a very good group of umpires. And I think that at the Division II level, over the last 7 years, as my reign as the Division II national coordinator, I think we've gotten to a point finally where we really have honed in on who are the guys that are the next level umpire. And it's taken us a minute to get there, but the guy that represented us this year, and Steve Zawiski from Pennsylvania, is an epitome of exactly what we're looking for to take guys to the next level. He did a tremendous job. He's just a quality umpire, but more importantly for me, he's a quality person. And I think that I look for that more than I look for how great of an umpire you are. I look for how great of a person you are. And Steve Zawiski fits that mold. And I was proud to have him come. I'm excited about the future of Division II. And I think it's important for guys to understand that it's not just about your umpiring. And I can't stress that enough. And I tell guys this all the time. It literally is more about what kind of person are you? Do you fit in a locker room with a bunch of alpha males? And do you fit the mold of what we're looking for to represent us at the Division II level? And I'll just tell you, the guy that we've got on tonight with Steve Zawiski is that and a whole bunch more. So I couldn't be more proud of him. I couldn't be more proud of the fact that you guys are showcasing these umpires, all of these umpires. And I've seen them all five of these guys work at one time or another. Not only quality human beings, but they're great umpires. They deserve these accolades. They deserve where they've gone. And I'm happy for all of them.
Thank you, Scott. For ODAC coordinator Greg Walls, his path has not led to a College World Series assignment on the field, but he does bring with him this evening a unique perspective as a coordinator as it relates to Jerry Boresh. Greg, if you would, please share your introductory thoughts.
For me, it's a little bit different than what you heard with Scott and with some of the others. I became a coordinator years ago as I was working my way through. So I have not had the ability or the opportunity to go to the Division III College World Series. So I tell these guys every year I have to kind of live vicariously through them. And I told Jerry that I tell all of them, but I was thinking, Danny, when you asked me about it a little while ago, kind of back to what the first time I ever saw Jerry. And we were in this back room in this auxiliary gym and in a high school here in town, and it was November and it was cold and virtually nobody showed up. But this one guy, this skinny kid showed up who I didn't know him. He had never worked before, and he just showed up and we started doing cage work with him. And within about 30 minutes, it was pretty obvious. Zach Brown has a song that says she's got whatever it is. And it was pretty obvious that Jerry had whatever it is that was going to make him a good umpire. Now, did that mean that he was destined to succeed? No, because it came with an awful lot of work. And he's done that. It also came with some hiccups along the way. He took correction and went with it and grew from it, and is, I think, a better umpire because of things that we've been able to tell him through the years. I will tell you this, that one of the things that I saw was Jerry was very good, but it wasn't necessarily until he started working as one of our trainers to actually train other umpires as an instructor, when he vaulted from a pretty good, very good umpire to somebody that I wanted to see and to be able to push to where he got this past year. So I couldn't be happier. And we've had an amazing run for one conference in the Division III championships, and I couldn't be happier for Jerry. He happens to be one of the guys local in my area, and very proud of them. And I can't wait to see what he does from here. Congratulations, Jerry.
Thank you, Greg. What's really neat for me is knowing how many other umpires besides Jerry you have impacted. Concluding our coordinator wrap-up will be Alex Skandalis. Alex has had a presence at the Division III College World Series, either on the field or off the field, since 2015. Alex, can you speak to the success, as illustrated in the graphic on the screen, realized by our organization in terms of the number of umpires we have placed in NCAA baseball championships?
Thanks, Danny. It's great to be here tonight, everyone. I think I have a unique perspective on the Division III realm here. I went to the series in 2015, and I think I've been to every World Series that's been played since then. As a supporter of the umpires, as a supporter of United and MAC and the ODAC, and I think the thing I'm most proud of and what we've done as a unit is we have made going to the World Series meaningful. Everyone that has been put in that tournament, in that World Series, and of course with Scott at the Division II level from our area in the last 8-9 years, whatever it might be, has been deserving, and none more deserving than the 5 that are with us tonight. So I look forward to spending the next hour with them, seeing their accomplishments, and sharing in their joy.
Our first segment here this evening will feature Jerry Boresh. I first met Jerry at a clinic in Florida, and there were two things that were easily identifiable almost immediately. Jerry possesses a commitment to continuing umpire education, and he is authentically invested in becoming the best umpire he possibly can be. A few years later, I was on a Division III Super Regional crew with Jerry, and I can vividly remember being in the field and thinking how much he has grown, how much his game has grown, and how much his skills have advanced. This growth and so much more is conveyed in our first video segment here this evening.
I have put a tremendous amount of time and effort into learning this craft. There is no way, I believe, that you can truly progress to a position to where you get that opportunity if you do not invest in your own education. Well, for a long time, it wasn't actually in play. I was just grinding, trying to get better and be better and work on my craft and be as good an umpire as I could. Only the past couple years was it really on my radar. And when it really became, hey, this is a real possibility, I won't say that my focus ever changed from my approach to everything I was doing, but now it was like, okay, there's another goal in mind to what I'm trying to do. So the phone call came Saturday morning from Don Umlin, and the conversation was pretty short, pretty jovial. He asked me how I was doing, everything, and then he goes, so we think about meeting me in Iowa later this year. And I was like, I'm in. I got to work first base in my first game. And we're standing there, pretty big crowd with a lot of people, in attendance on the first day. And it was kind of like, wow, like this is really happening. It's really going on. It happened to be my dad's hometown. And I actually lost my dad this year. He actually grew up miles from the airport. So there was a lot of emotion there for me. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri originally. And Cedar Rapids is close enough to St. Louis that my mom and my sister drove up from St. Louis to spend a couple of days with me. And that was really awesome. It's arguably the biggest stage I've been on. I was also able to share it with my girlfriend who flew out. She's been with me through a lot of my baseball career. And having her be a part of that was pretty awesome. I felt like my dad was there. Those are things that I remember the most.
Jerry, you spoke about the emotion in the video. And as someone who edited this, that always struck a chord with me as I've been putting this project together. What was your approach in terms of acknowledging that emotion and how really very important these things are to all of us umpires? What was your approach in acknowledging that, but not letting it affect you on the field?
Yeah, Danny. So through a lot of growth in the past couple of years in umpiring and in my personal life, I have found that you have to live and feel in the moment, and you need to process that as it happens. It actually, for me, makes life more meaningful, because like every new moment is a new moment. Fortunately, a lot of us can compartmentalize really well, and when it's game time, it's game time. But being in the moment is I think it's key to success.
In terms of the dynamic that you spoke about in the early part of the video, and like I said in my introduction, you have always been about continuing umpire education. The video doesn't really provide a stage where you can really expand on that. But now that we have you here tonight, can you just articulate why attending clinics, why continuing umpire education has been an important part of your umpire career?
So it all started a long time ago, Danny, and in my local high school association, we lucky enough to have a few teams that run 3-man, and I knew that Greg Walls, who's also my high school assigner, was not going to pay me to go learn 3-man on the field. And that's ultimately what started me down this road of investing in my craft and in my education, and continuing all the way through this year when I attended the Delaware clinic. Being 11 years in now, I still learned a significant amount of technique and theory and everything from Delaware. So it's one of those things that I don't believe you'll ever stop learning if that's what you want to do with this. If you want to be the best you can be, you're never going to stop learning or evolving. That I just believe that's what this avocation is.
Let me bring John Porter into the discussion. John, as someone who has spent countless hours with Jerry at clinics, whether it's in Florida or Delaware, Virginia, multiple places. How rewarding is it for you to see someone like Jerry achieve something like the College World Series?
I kind of like the idea of being realistic with umpires and giving them a road or a pathway to where they need to go. The first time I ever saw Jerry was in one of those high school clinics in Richmond. And I remember telling Greg Walls, I said, this guy has really got it, even though he wasn't ready at the time. And that's the fascinating part about this is that just like Greg said earlier about him when he was first learning how to umpire, I saw him when he was pretty raw and had really started picking it up. And my plan or my idea is to figure out what everybody can do and put them on the path that they should be on to succeed to wherever they need to go. And just every step of the way with Jerry, he cared and he got on that path and he cared and continued progressing where other people fall by the wayside. You know, he stuck it out and stayed with it. And if he's been working 11 years now, he can still work 11 more at least and continue to show that shining example of how you can get something out of it if you're willing to put something into it. And watching that progression is so fascinating. And he is so fascinating because of that, because some people quit and get, I guess, tired of the rat race to get to where they want to get if they aren't willing to put in the work that it takes to get to the finish line. But there is no finish line. Whatever finish line you think you're on, you're never at the finish line. You have to keep going. I don't care how long it is. And so with Jerry, there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that his finish line is yet to come. It's lovely to watch this.
Another coordinator who has had a big influence on Jerry, of course, is Greg Walls. Greg is the coordinator in the ODAC, like I had made mention of in the introduction. Greg, as you sit here this evening, you just saw Jerry's video for the first time. You heard him articulate his thoughts on what it means to be a College World Series umpire. Can you articulate how meaningful it is for you to see someone like Jerry succeed in the fashion that he has?
Yeah, Danny, I'm just proud. That's I'm just proud to see these guys. See them, you know, from where they begin, where they are now. Hope I can see them progress for the next few years when they're working on fields with me. So just, you know, for me, as the guy that saw him from the beginning and to see where, you know, where he's gone, just a sense of, man, we did it. We did what we thought we could do. And that's a good feeling.
Jerry, I will let you have the final word on your segment here. But the one thing Greg's comment reminds me of, I'll only speak for myself, but I am pretty confident everybody on this Zoom meeting here this evening, they feel the same way. It is so cool. That's John's line, by the way. It is so cool to see the progression of umpires and then you see them succeed and you just feel so proud. And I know you're one of the clinic attendees who knows that. If you could just expand on that as we wrap this up with you.
It's actually often something I tell, I'll say younger umpires when we're, going on the field together, or, we're in the pregame, is not only you're out there building your reputation, but you are also cementing the reputation of the coordinators and assigners that put you here. You work for them, you represent them. That is something that has always been in the back of my mind, that I've always thought about when I get certain assignments, or the schedule comes out, thinking about, okay, get this opportunity, you got to represent, right? You need to, represent, Greg Walls, the ODAC assigner, John Porter, the conference coordinator, Alex and Chris, they're putting you out there, you're representing them. That's very important. From a hierarchy standpoint, but it also means a lot that they're putting you in this game because they trust you, based on, going to a clinic, going to camps, and grinding it out. I don't know what else to say other than that, Danny. You always hope that the coordinator, that you make them happy, or Greg kind of said proud in that case. You do want that. You might not think about it all the time, but you do want that. That you want them to know and believe that they made the right choice, and putting your name on the paper, and pushing you forward to the next level. And it's been an honor and a privilege to represent the coordinators on this call. So.
Thanks, Jerry. Our next umpire we will feature here this evening is Mike Griffin. Mike Griffin is just one of those guys, one of those umpires you want on your crew. He's also an umpire who wants to learn, who wants to maximize his umpire ability. What also stood out to me about Mike, and really, truth be told, with all of our umpires here this evening, is how meaningful this College World Series assignment was. This meaning, certainly as it relates to Mike, I believe translates really well in this video.
If I have an opportunity to come and train, especially from higher level umpires that can give me the feedback to help me with my game, and then hopefully elevate me to reach the next goals that I have, to be honest with you, why wouldn't I do that? I mean, you could talk till you're blue in the face about things, but until you actually get out in the field and do drills and talk to people that have that knowledge, those are the things that help elevate you to that next level. And I'm just very fortunate that I was able to get that training here with United. So it's funny, I originally missed the phone call because I was on a baseball field in my hometown dealing with the umpires that I recruit, train, and assign. And after we take care of a few logistics, I go over to another field, call back the national coordinator, get the news, and a little bit of like shock, relief, but then also a little bit of that moment that I was hoping for and wanting, with the goal of that being for so long. And to hear it come from Don Umlin's voice was just, it was awesome. Like almost like you being told you're going to Disney World. So it was truly unbelievable, and what an experience. Yeah, I was just ecstatic. Like, like as soon as you walk in, you see the field, it's like, I made it. Everybody was so excited to be there. We were excited for each other. And we could tell that everybody's been working hard for years to get to this point. So everybody just got along right away, which is great. It doesn't always happen in crews, even during the regular season, let alone 8 guys at a national championship. I'm a big believer in Division III baseball because that's what I grew up with. And knowing that those kids play their hearts out, you know, a lot of them aren't going on to professional baseball. So knowing that, I got to make sure that I am on top of every single pitch, every single play for them. And I just take that mindset and I appreciate it. And I think that helps me appreciate that level and the fact that once you get to the World Series, it all comes to fruition. It was great. You know, he soaked in every moment you possibly could. And, you know, selfishly, I'd love to do it again.
Mike, a common theme that has been echoed here this evening, early in this virtual event, is the importance of continuing umpire education. Jerry touched on this earlier. I know when I went to Delaware for the 4-umpire clinic, a clinic that John, Chris, Alex, and Dan Roselle really worked to make the most beneficial clinic experience for everyone involved. What really stood out to me, and I took Chris aside early on and made mention of guys like you and Jerry and Justin, who were all there, you know, 5-6 months removed from working a College World Series. And I know we touched on this when I sat you down, but if you would, could you just expand on why, even after that type of success, you made a conscious decision to attend an umpire education clinic like the one in Delaware?
Yeah, absolutely. Danny, thanks for hosting this tonight, and thanks for everybody being here. The big thing to me is after having an experience like that at the World Series, you want more. The training that the United and MAC provides is just top notch. I saw it once before, a couple of years back, going to a 4-man clinic, and I wanted to do it again. I wanted to learn more because, you know, like I said in the video, the more reps that you can do on the field, especially with top quality Division I and professional umpires, is just going to help move you and motivate you to get better for whatever the next adventures you have in your professional baseball goals. To me, it was a no-brainer, just because I knew the quality that was going to be down there. And, you know, obviously with Danny Merzel's, you know, program that he put through, it was different from a couple of years ago. And, you know, and that's the thing. The clinics are just enhancing and enhancing each time you go. So I just truly appreciate that. And I just thought it was a great opportunity to learn, you know, more as we go towards the next goals.
One of the things that really stood out to me in terms of what you said in your video is you made mention that when Don called you to tell you that you were a College World Series umpire, it was like being told you're going to Disney World. You know, 8 months later, with a new 2023 season upon us really now, can you properly articulate how truly meaningful it is that you will always be a College World Series umpire?
Yeah, it was, you know, to me, it was a kind of a big weight off my shoulders because I put a lot of pressure on myself to, you know, be the absolute best that I can be, not only for myself, but for everybody that I work with and work for. I'm the type of guy that, you know, likes to pay it forward. So if there's a way that I can learn from others and then pay that forward to other guys that I work with, even if it's just a little bit here and there, that experience kind of pushes me over the edge to do that even more. And I was glad it happened. To me, you think about it a lot. You work hard, you talk to people, you do the games, you sometimes get feedback. A lot of times at the Division III level, depending upon the coordinator you work for, you don't necessarily get the feedback. But the feedback that I was getting from United was phenomenal. Kept working hard, kept my nose up, and just keep working clean baseball and doing what I needed to do. So it all worked out, came to fruition, and I'm so happy that it happened, and I'm happy that I'm part of this group.
Our Division III NCAA coordinator is Alex Skandalis. And Alex has known you for a long time. Alex, can you articulate how neat it was and meaningful to you to not only experience Cedar Rapids with Mike, but the overall meaning in someone like me getting to that World Series stage?
Yeah, thanks, Danny, and Mike. Congratulations. I know we spent some time together in Cedar Rapids, and I enjoyed every minute of it, and seeing your success. But God, the first time I probably saw Mike Griffin's name, I think I was umpiring in Boston, and we got assigned an NECBL game, and of course Mike came off because he was throwing peanuts at the Red Sox game. And we never got to work together that day. And I think through the years we had known each other, but I'm not sure we really, got a chance to get on the field, and things changed a little bit. And I wound up in more of a coordinator's role. And the thing about the situation with Mike that I really admire is, he was working a ton of baseball in New England. And I think as we talk about continuing education, like, he embraced the fact that he wanted to continue to get better and solidify his slot and get to the World Series. I think there were some times, Mike, where maybe somebody came from behind you and who had a little bit less experience in the regional realm and got to go, or the next year maybe something else happened, and you didn't let that bother you. You continue to try to get better. You continue to try to be a part of the program, and I just have so much admiration for that, because there's been others that have given up on that path. And I'm so glad you didn't. And when we walked into, I don't even know, what do we call it, the mascot room in Cedar Rapids after your first plate job, and I was so happy that you did it. Like, you did it. You were successful. You had a great plate job, and I know you had a great time, and I know how meaningful this was for you. So I'm so happy that you got to do it, and I'm proud of you, and I'm looking forward to big things from you in some of the D3 stuff that we continue to do, and then working some Division I stuff as we keep going. So again, congratulations.
Thank you.
As we wrap this up, Mike, as a means to underscore maybe the message of Alex, as he made mention of, your path wasn't entirely linear. There were some challenges involved. What would be your message to the umpires, many of whom may be watching this, who aspire to work that World Series?
The message is pretty simple. Have a goal, work hard towards that goal, have conversations with your coordinators, because your coordinators are going to be honest with you to let you know exactly where they see you, what you need to do, and work your schedule, work hard, and just continue to believe in yourself. Because I feel once, to Alex's point, and Chris has shared this with me too, once you start to let go of that goal and that vision, then you will suffer on the field. And then ultimately your crew suffers, and then your coordinators are going to suffer. So that's, I know Jerry had said that before, how, we work for our coordinators, we represent them. And that's the case. So my message is to those that want to, get to, the College World Series, is just continue to work hard, but then get better by going to clinics and then talking to people, having those candid conversations, and then work towards those goals.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for conveying a valuable perspective, valuable to really anyone who umpires. We will now move on and continue with the good person theme that Scott Taylor introduced earlier in his comments. We will do so with the introduction of our next featured umpire, Justin Sims. Justin not only is a great umpire, he happens to also be an exceptional human being. We will hear from this exceptional human being on the other side.
I've said when I started umpiring in 2008, I said if I can get to some kind of World Series in my whole career, I will be happy. And to think that I've achieved that, and I would say it's somewhat early in my career. I've been umpiring for 15 years. I was down at the Rustmat camp and tournament. Don Ullman was there as an evaluator, and I just got done working the plate. And we go into the locker room, we're talking, getting ready, because we have another, it's a doubleheader, we're getting ready to go back onto the field. And Don sits next to me, puts his hand on my lap, says, "Justin, can you come outside for a second?" And I was like, sure. I figured we were gonna go over some things I did wrong, just talk about the game. And he stopped and said, "How would you like to join us in Cedar Rapids for this year's World Series?" And I still don't remember how I responded, but I was just, yeah, sure, absolutely. And then I started crying like a little girl. Get goosebumps thinking about that moment. I was nervous because it's just umpiring in general. If you don't have those nerves, that's the time to get out. I was excited for so many reasons to obviously work there, but meet the other 7 guys throughout the country. It was as soon as we got there and walked onto the field. I forget the team that was taking batting practice, but the team was taking batting practice, and they have the big screen out in the outfield. I took a picture of it and sent it to my wife, and she said, "You made it." And it just that's when it hit me, and it's like, been working this long, many weekends missed with the family, and here we are. And I can still vividly remember just walking in through the dugout, through the tunnel, and seeing it, and an image that will never leave my mind. The thing I took away most was my parents being there. My dad lives in Florida, so I don't get to see him much. He flew up. My mom's health isn't too well. She was able to make it, and that's where it all started as a kid, right? Playing t-ball, playing catch with your parents in your backyard, going all the way through high school and umpiring. My grandfather was an umpire. That's kind of how I got into it, and just sharing it with them. Something that I'll never forget, and I know it's something that they enjoyed as well.
Justin, you mentioned the emotion and the goosebumps when you learned that you were going to be a Division III College World Series umpire. For those people who may be viewing this, they may not understand how important this is to all of us umpires, whether you get to a World Series or not. And every time I watched your segment, that's what really stood out to me. Could you articulate why this is so important?
It's important for many reasons. For me specifically is ever since I was 5, baseball is pretty much all I know. So to be able to reach this is it's just personally it's my hands are sweaty now just watching it and thinking about it. It just I guess it's just something that I can share with so many people that have been involved. I mentioned my wife in the video, and I will continue to mention her because it's a grind through the season. And it's being away from home and her taking care of everything at home. It's something that I can share with her. It's something that we can share forever. And those that are hoping to achieve this accomplishment, I'll never be able to explain the feeling. It's just something that you have to experience for yourself and get there. You think the weekends, the regional weekends, the Super Bowl regional weekends are fun. Wait till you get to the World Series, because it's 10 times better.
You made mention of your family in the segment. One thing that we discussed when I had you on camera was the crew. Unfortunately, what's the phrase? Some things end up on the cutting room floor. Could you articulate what the experience was like sharing it with 7 other umpires from around the country, and how great the crew camaraderie was in Cedar Rapids.
It was priceless. We all know that there could always be, you know, one bad apple spoils a bunch, and we've all been on a crew where that one one person is there. Fortunately, I've always had a good crew, and being in the World Series, it was the same. Yeah, you build relationships. We still have a group text going every once in a while that we still talk to each other. Donnie and I were talking not too long ago. It's just there's so many good people. Just to add to the friends that you have forever. You know, heading up. A couple of my buddies were going up to Boston this summer or last summer to see a game, and I text Mike, reached out to him, and he said, yes, tell him to come see me at the Red Sox, and we'll take care of him. So it just, I have 7 more friends throughout the country just to say hello to, stop by, and relationships that will, and memories that will never leave. I'll never forget.
Let me now bring in Chris Marshall to this conversation. Chris, if you can, please just share with us your thoughts on Justin and his progression, and how rewarding it is for you to see somebody who is very clearly an important part of your future staffs, how rewarding it is for you to see him on that College World Series stage.
I saw Justin in my first year as a coordinator, maybe first or second weekend I went out to watch games. It was probably Cornell and it was freezing, but I remember watching him out there, and you know, like we have said on with these other guys as well, I'm like, ooh, there's something there. I like this kid, and it made me really excited about the future of United and MAC, and the opportunities that guys like Justin, all these guys would have, and to watch his progression over the last few years through, you know, not only D3 but Division One, and getting a little taste of some Division One conference tournaments too. And you know, I remember the MAC tournament a couple years ago. Justin came up to me after a plate game. I don't know, I'm sure you remember that conversation, Justin. Where you're like, I don't remember the exact words, but I think the feeling was, "Woo, I've never experienced anything like that before." And you learned a lot that day. I think that was our conversation. So it's been great to see all this, and for Justin to have this opportunity to go there and be so successful and on that stage, and you know, couldn't be more prouder of him and everybody else here. And certainly there's a lot ahead of him. So congratulations, Justin, and just keep going.
As we wrap this up, Justin, as Chris just made mention, there is so much ahead of you. Can you just share some final thoughts with us as we wrap up your segment on your College World Series experience?
I'm speechless. A side note, 3 years ago, I was laying in a hospital bed during COVID with a major medical issue, thinking that I may not be able to umpire again. And that's when this happened, that was the first thought that crossed my mind. And to be able to get back on the field and be able to accomplish this is it means more than I can ever explain to anybody. And I'm lucky, I'm blessed. You know, I know there's so many things that go into it, and I will be forever in debt to you guys for allowing me to do this, giving me the opportunity to represent you, to represent the NCAA, and I just can't thank you guys enough.
Thanks, Justin. As I made mention in the introduction, you're just such a exceptional person, and it's really great to see good people having success. So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Danny.
Our next featured umpire, Donnie Smith, certainly does not need any introduction to anyone in the extended United family. There are so many positive attributes to acknowledge. Donnie brings an infectious personality and a positivity to everything he does, including umpiring. This positivity in umpiring is augmented by his talent and his natural ability that is only going to serve him well in what promises to be an exceptionally bright future in NCAA baseball. More with Donnie following his video.
So I had a conversation in Florida at Rustmat. It was ironically the first time I met Don Umlin. He pulled me aside, which I thought was strange, but you know, he told me that I was going to the World Series. In that moment, it's pretty humbling to understand that you've worked so long for a goal that you wanted to achieve. You know, you get emotional about it because you definitely, you see the work you've put in, and you see the people that have been in your corner, and you know. It's honestly the guys. I mean, we still talk, our text chain's still going. Being able to have those moments with those people, you know, it definitely bonds you for life. It's one of those things I'm gonna remember forever. Obviously the games, you know who won, you know who lost, but to me, it really was the people. It was those 7 guys, plus the handful of other guys off the field who are really helping us, and that to me is what I'll remember the most, for sure. I was told to, you know, drink it in at certain moments, like I said. I mean, there was several times when I'm working third, second, first, you're out in the outfield, and you're not even talking to the players, like, isn't this pretty cool? You know, me and you, we're just, look around for a second. So you definitely have opportunities to appreciate the moment, but then again, it also is time to work and do your job. You never work a World Series till you get to work a World Series, so you have certain thoughts and, you know, visions of what it's gonna be like. I mean, for me, at certain points, it was the World Series, and at certain points, it was just another game, you know. But it's just, it was an incredible opportunity. I feel very blessed, very humbled to have that opportunity, so. I remember it, because I always tell my catchers, don't celebrate, let me call it first. And it was a ground ball, fly ball something, and you understand the magnitude, and I see the celebration happening, but then I forgot his name. He was a great kid, the catcher. He turned around and came to me, and he had tears in his eyes, and in that moment, I could see in his face what it meant to him, and it just, you know, it's little things like that go a long way, that you just remember forever, and it, you know, that's one of those things.
Donnie, you talked about drinking it in, appreciating the moment, and all of the people involved in your experience. With the perspective of 8 months now, have you been able to take a moment and really, truly appreciate the experience?
Yeah, for sure. I wouldn't say it's one particular moment when you have relationships, friendships with a lot of umpires throughout the country. You know, it's usually one of the first things that they bring up, and every time they bring it up to me, it's like, you know, you every time it's brought up, you realize the magnitude of the moment, and you know, it sinks in a little bit every time that you talk to someone. They ask you about your experience, they ask you, you know, what you liked, what you didn't like, but every time I talk to someone about it, it just sinks in a little bit more, and I don't really know if that's ever going to go away.
The final out. I edited this piece, and every time I see the final out with your comments, it really makes an impression on me. Can you just take me through that moment? You're obviously working a College World Series, and the final out is approaching. And as umpires, we're always going to be super focused in that moment. And then you have the final out, I believe it was a ground ball, and then you have that moment with the catcher. Can you expand on that with us here tonight?
Yeah, so I mean, that relationship that you have with that catcher, sometimes when the game ends, they kind of just go and celebrate, they do their own thing. And, you know, I understood it's a national championship, and they had just achieved their goal that they had set out the whole year. And you wait there for a second, you see if that person's going to interact with you, and for him to come back around and just say, you know, good game, he appreciates you. You know, we were communicating the whole game, and it resonated with me that, you know, he doesn't remember me. I hardly remember him, but we have that moment to where, you know, we were bonded, and we have this connection in that moment it was really special. And I watch that movie often. it holds a special place in my heart. It really does. It really does.
Alex Skandalis, obviously, he spends the College World Series in Cedar Rapids. Alex, if you could share with us, your experience with Donnie, not only in Cedar Rapids, but your experience with Donnie since you first met him after he left professional baseball.
Yeah, I was trying to remember this, and I think it was like maybe August 2017, and the one and only Brian Miller calls me and says, I got a guy for you. And I said, okay, what's his deal? And he said, works in professional baseball. I think he's gonna be good. I think he's gonna be great for the organization. And so I think he signed up for Cortland, and we go to the Cortland camp, and he's working some innings, and I think Rathburn from Herkimer started yelling about some pitches, and when Donnie came over to talk to me, there was a little bit of that professional attitude of screw these guys, and I was thinking to myself, damn, maybe Brian's got this one wrong, and maybe he's not going to be able to make this adjustment. And I think we went through the camp, and obviously no baseball over the winter, and I think over the course of time here, I'm so glad that you put that picture up of Brian and Donnie and Derek Whitfield, because I've used that picture before, and I've said, like, there's three guys that I can just count on all the time, and not just me, but United and Mac, and those, Donnie just through and through, a supporter of the program anywhere we needed him, whether it was Atlanta, whether it was a D3 game in Corning, New York, whether it was a World Series assignment, it was always, what do you need from me? And, I couldn't be more happy for his accomplishment here. Him and I check in on, what are your goals? And Donnie's got him pretty down. He knows what his goals are. And this was one he wanted to check off the list. And I'm so happy he got to do it. I'm so happy I got to be there for it. And also with obviously the rest of a wonderful crew that he got to be the crew chief of. And we're certainly at United and Mac super proud of Donnie and the rest of the crew.
Another member under the United Mac umbrella is Chris Marshall, who has been down a few roads with Donnie. Chris, if you can share your thoughts as you're sitting here this evening, you just watched Donnie's video, you heard Alex's comments, your thoughts on Donnie's College World Series journey.
Well, it's so funny that Alex brings up that phone call from Brian, because Alex called me and said, there's an umpire from Rochester. You know who this guy is? And I had no idea. And then I was upset with myself. I'm like, how do I not know who this guy is? And then he shows up, and I remember the conversations that we had, like, boy, I hope we have this right. We'll see how this works out. And well, obviously it has. Couldn't be more proud of him. And obviously the World Series' accomplishments on the field are, really, really good. But I think it's off the field, the impact he's having on umpires everywhere, collegiate level, travel level, high school level, all across the country. And, he's got a cult following, and it's not just the hair. I mean, people follow him and they want to be around him, and he delivers the message that I think everybody wants to hear and that we would like him to deliver. So, it's just, he's such an integral part of our team and our future, and could be more proud of everything that Donnie's accomplished and what he will in the future.
Thanks, Chris. Donnie, as we conclude your segment, Alex made mention of how you have clearly defined goals going forward. As we conclude with you, can you just share with us your approach to chase after those goals, framed in the perspective that you have, as Alex said, checked off that Division III College World Series box?
Absolutely. I had 3 goals when I got into college baseball. The world's, the Division III national championship being one of them. And with goals and accomplishing goals, I had a rough time period. I wanted to achieve them. And then ironically, I achieved all 3 of them within a short amount of time. And now I've readjusted my goals to a 5, 10, and 15-year plan that where the work I do today, the work I do tomorrow, the work I do next week, and this season will ultimately affect all those decisions down the road that I can affect today. So the goals that I have are truly going to be, met or not met by the actions that I take solely individually every day.
Thanks, Donnie. And I know I speak for all of us as part of this united family. We could not be more thrilled for you, and we look forward to what the future has in store for you.
Thank you.
Concluding our umpire segments here this evening will be Steve Zawiski. While I have not known Steve for very long, I do know this. Steve has an intense passion for umpiring and genuinely cares. Just as important, he has the ability to have these characteristics translate on and off the field. We will hear more about Steve's College World Series journey and wrap this evening up after we first debut his video.
Scott Taylor was able to put together not only 8 guys who were good umpires, but he put together 8 guys that gelled. 8 guys who had great personalities, 8 guys who wanted to hang out, who talked baseball, who talked things other than baseball. Every night we were hanging out at the hotel, just talking about life in general, our families. I didn't really think about it, but then about 2 years in, I started thinking, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to get to the Division II World Series. To be able to go and be one of the top 8 umpires, in the country at the Division II level, all that hard work, all that came together and culminated in finally, reaching that pinnacle of going to the World Series. Walking to the field and being at home plate, having the ball bags on you, having all that equipment on, and thinking to yourself that, hey, I'm about to do the plate in a College World Series game. Division II, yeah, but it's not Division I, but still, this is pretty important, pretty serious stuff. The nerves were definitely a little higher than they normally would be. I know I probably told myself that walking out there, hey, this is just another game. There's a reason you're here. You've prepared for this. You're ready for this. But the nerves were definitely a little higher than normal. When I was asked to go to the World Series, I thought, I'll ask my mom. She's retired. She doesn't have to work anymore. She has a lot of free time on her hands. And I asked her, I said, do you want to go to the World Series with me? And she quickly said yes. She watched pretty much every baseball game. Not only the games that I was in, but she watched the other games that I wasn't umpiring in, and she just soaked it in. She met people down there from all over the country talking baseball. So that was a really cool experience for me to, get to share that with my mom. At the conclusion of the championship game, I think I had third base for the championship game. So when the final out was made and the winning team kind of does the dog pile on the mound, but I just kind of looked around and said, you know what, you've made it to the College World Series, Division II College World Series, and this is pretty cool. And I kind of just soaked it in there for a minute before walking off. It was kind of surreal.
Steve, as we talk about your video, the very first thing you made mention of was the crew composition that Scott Taylor put together. With the perspective now of 8 months, can you share with us how very meaningful that crew and how you guys got along and the lasting friendships that were formed? Can you just share with us how meaningful that is to you?
Yeah. So, not only did I meet 8 or 7 other guys that, were great umpires, but, I met 7 other individuals who are now friends. We still have a text thread that, we talk, almost every week about where we're at, the games that we're at, issues that we've had. We joke around. I mean, we're talking, the 8 umpires and then Scott Taylor. We pick on each other pretty much weekly about, not only what happened that week, but what happened, currently in our lives, not only on the field but off the field. So it wasn't just 8 good umpires; it was 8 good people that just gelled as a group and had fun together. Every night, we met on the patio at the hotel, had a couple beers, and just talked about, life, talked about baseball, talked about the day, talked about the next day. It was just a great experience.
In the segment, you talked about identifying a goal to work a College World Series and then putting a plan together to work towards that goal. Can you expand on that and share with us the journey you had en route to Cary, North Carolina?
Yeah, so I started high school in 2013 and then college in 16. And, I really didn't think much about, at least at that point when I first started, as far as where I wanted to go with college playoffs. I was just happy umpiring college baseball. And then in 2018, I wasn't able to go to the conference playoffs that year because I missed the annual meeting for the group that I was with, because they had a rule that if you missed that, unfortunately couldn't attend the playoffs because I had to go to a funeral. But I get a call from a guy named Scott Taylor, who I didn't know. I'd never spoken to him before. And I get this phone call. I thought my college season was over. I was in a locker room ready to do a game at the Atlantic League. And, I get this phone call and it's, hey, this is Scott Taylor. Are you available the week of May, whatever? I could have had a trial scheduled. There would have been a witness unavailable or something. I would have made something up, I think. But he asked me if I could sub in and be an alternate, fill in for somebody in 2018 for regionals. And then at that point, I really thought, okay, well, now this is how this works. Like, you're on the radar. And then from that point on, it was a big goal of mine to, continue with the conference playoffs, regional playoffs, and then of course super regionals were added at the Division II level. And then there's always rumors about the World Series and stuff. But I was extremely fortunate, to be seen, to be on his radar. And then it became a goal of mine to just keep advancing, and do whatever it takes to advance as far as being prepared, getting better, staying in shape. I'm 46 years old. Going to the gym can be a little tough. It's challenging at times. But when you're thinking, hey, I could be possibly going to the World Series here, you start thinking about that in the gym, and it pushes you. It pushes you to to work out to try to stay in shape, which helps. Get in the rule book. When you have that big goal, it's easier to be in tip-top shape, not only physically but mentally.
Thanks, Steve. Let's now bring Chris Marshall into the conversation, Division I coordinator. Chris, if you could share with us your thoughts on Steve and his journey to the Division II College World Series.
Thanks, Danny. I first met Steve, I think, in 2020. Danny, you and I were in New Jersey the COVID year, and we were just excited to be able to go out there and watch some games and do some evals. And there were a few guys that were there that we wanted to take a look at, and Steve was working on, I forget which field, the one to the right. I don't know what number it was, but I remember there was actually somebody else on the field, no offense, Steve, that I was looking at, and then all of a sudden you caught my eye. And I was actually in the process of walking over to talk to Danny, and then I stopped in my tracks and went back. And I realized there's somebody else here I need to see. So I believe there was a phone call to Scott Taylor at that point, who kind of filled me in on what Steve was all about. And I stuck around a little bit longer, and we ended up having a conversation that day about, kind of where he was, and me having some knowledge of him going through his D2 path. And, at that point, you're moving in the right direction and big things are, on the horizon for you. So I believe we left it that day that let's just get you through your path here, and then we'll see where we are after that. Well, that's where we ended up here, which I'm really excited about. We got you on the field a little bit last year. You did an amazing job at the World Series, and what a great experience for you. And I think it's time now that you've gotten through that process, and now we'll see what you do at the D1 level. And I expect big things from you, and very proud of the job you did out there, and looking forward to see what we have in store for you in the future. So congratulations.
Scott, as the national coordinator, the person who signs off on placing umpires like Steve into the baseball championship, and as someone who believes that all of his College World Series umpires are now part of the Division II baseball family, your Division II baseball family, talk to us about Steve and his College World Series experience.
Well, Danny, when we brought Steve into, as you call it, the family, what I did not bargain for was the fact that Steve's mother is a bigger baseball fan than Steve is. I've always marveled, and I've always kind of enjoyed to see guys who come to Cary, North Carolina, and who they bring to share the experience with. And he chose to share it with his mom, which says a lot about the kind of person that Steve is. First of all, he's a great umpire. Everything on the baseball field comes very naturally to Steve. But at the same time, Steve faced a lot of adversity in Cary because of the fact that he got injured there. And he's the first guy that I've had in my 7-year stint as national coordinator that got hurt on the baseball field. And it kind of shook me up a bit, honestly, because I'm just not, I don't think you prepare yourself for a guy getting hurt on the baseball field. And literally to the point where he had to go to the hospital at the point in time when he was working the plate. Had to get off the field. We had to bring him off the field. We had to send him to the hospital for concussion symptoms. And it was funny because I made the comment, okay, I've got to leave and go check on Steve. And all of the umpires, literally all of them, all the other 7 people who were there umpiring wanted to go and be with him and check on him. So I get to the hospital and he's there with his mom, waiting in the emergency room to be treated for concussion-like symptoms. And I got to learn a lot about who Steve was, not from Steve, but from his mom. And that meant a lot. I mean, I'm literally at the hospital till 1 a.m. in the morning trying to get him through this. And it was something that was very unusual and very unique in the experience that I've had with working with the guys that we bring to Cary in the College World Series umpires. And nobody felt worse about it than Zawiski. Seriously, he was like, don't take me out, don't send me to the hospital, don't. But yet at the same time, I think that all of the other 7 umpires saw him for the leader that he is. And for me, that was the more important aspect of who and what Steve Zawiski is. So he's actually an assistant district attorney in Pennsylvania. So I already kind of knew what kind of leader I had with Steve. But when all of this went down and the adversity happened during the World Series in North Carolina and all this happened to him, it really kind of stood out when you got to talk to the other people involved in his journey, what kind of leader Steve is. And although he won't be known as somebody, I mean, he's the only guy I know that didn't work a full plate job in the College World Series in Division II level, because he literally worked half a game before he had to go to the hospital. But I'm going to tell you, the guys, not just his crew, but both crews, saw who Steve was and what he is as far as a leader. And he's actually it's one of the more proud moments of my NCAA career as a Division II coordinator, to watch him and see him and watch guys react to what happened to him. And I already knew what a great umpire he was when we brought him. I didn't realize how much of a great leader he was until we left. And that for me was probably one of the greatest moments that I've had in my 7 years as national coordinator.
Steve, when you hear those sentiments expressed by Scott, and then think of it in terms of your World Series, not only your World Series experience, but your journey to Cary, North Carolina, as we wrap this up with you, your final thoughts in terms of how you view this experience, maybe when you're alone in your own thoughts and you think of the pride of this accomplishment. Can you just articulate your thoughts as we sit here this evening?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I take a lot of pride in, a lot of things in my life, but especially baseball. And, I always want to be prepared physically, mentally, and getting to the World Series was a huge goal of mine. And I accomplished, that. There's a lot more to be done. I still feel bad, about, leaving the game and getting hurt. And, it was just something that was unfortunate, and that's the way life is. And, when, life throws you lemons, and you just make lemonade, I guess, and you just make the most of it. It is what it is. And unfortunately it happened. But it was a great experience. I got to experience it with my mom, who was 76 years of age. I got to meet some great friends, great umpires. It made me a better umpire. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the future. I haven't been with United very long, only 2 years, but what I've learned in those 2 years is more than what I've learned in the prior several years. So I've learned more with United and MAC in a brief period of time. I'm fortunate to have Brian DeBrouwer nearby. I'll give you a quick story. Like I went and did. I just went to Penn to see some pitches a couple weeks ago, and Brian was going to be there. It's about an hour and 45 minutes away. Got to take the turnpike just to go see some pitches. But if Brian's going to be there, you're going to get some information, and it was worth the trip. It was worth the toll cost, because he explained something to me on taking plays at second base that I never even thought about. Now I'm a better umpire for that. So it's a continuing learning experience, and United and MAC is a huge part of that. And joining that group has been one of the best decisions that I've made as an umpire. There's no doubt about that.
Thank you, Steve. Before we wrap this up here this evening with closing remarks from Scott Taylor and Donnie Smith, I wanted to first personally thank Nick Swaha. Of course, as many of you know, Nick has assisted NCAA Baseball Division III National Coordinator Don Umland at the World Series sites. In 2022, I was unable to attend, and Nick captured much of the content represented in the videos here this evening. So again, thanks, Nick. Now to those closing remarks. Scott, why don't you kick us off, followed by Donnie?
Here's my message to the 5 of you who made it. You've taken on a new role of leadership, and I really need all 5 of you. And Steve, my guy, and I have had this conversation a couple of times since we've been away from Cary. All 5 of you have put yourself in a very elite field, and it's your responsibility to pass on the knowledge, to pass on the experience to others I want everybody who's watching this presentation who hasn't been to a World Series to understand that these are the guys that you need to mimic. These are the guys that you need to look up to, that they made it. They made their goal happen. And so all of you who are watching this, I really want you to understand that I trust my guys who have been on this journey probably more than I trust the coordinators that nominated them to come to Cary, because they've been on the journey and they've been on the path, and they understand not only what to do to get to the pinnacle, but they also understand more than anyone else of what I'm looking for people who are following in their footsteps. And so you have all now taken on a new responsibility. And I want all 5 of you to understand that responsibility passes on to, don't let anybody into the close family who doesn't belong. And I think that all of my guys, and I give them that message in Cary every year, is to understand that the ones who make it are the ones, all of them are in my cell phone. All of them are in my text messages. I talk to my guys, and Zawiski will probably attest to this. Steve and I probably talk at least 2 or 3 times a month. And Steve's constantly giving me names of guys who are the next guys to be able to come out of that Atlantic region. That's a responsibility that should weigh very heavily on you, because all 5 of you understand and have been on the path and understand what all of us are looking for World Series umpires. So don't take that lightly. Take that responsibility and help make the championships better than what you left them when you were part of it. It's the most important thing for me.
If you're trying to achieve a goal, some of the biggest things that I can say is be humble, be appreciative of the opportunity, work hard. All these guys in this call, they all embody that. The guys who have worked the series in the past have embodied it. The guys that are going to work it are going to embody it. If you just apply those things to your life, you'd be surprised to what you can achieve. And the D3 World Series is something I'm always gonna check up on. Every year I'm gonna see the crew, because I'm gonna know a lot of the guys. So it's gonna be real enjoyable for me going forward, seeing who gets that call and who gets to experience the same experience I had, because it is once in a lifetime, and I hope a lot of people get to experience it.
Thank you, Scott and Donnie. Your messages of responsibility and humility have certainly placed an exclamation point on what has truly been a special evening celebrating the accomplishments of our umpires. A huge thank you is also in order to everyone who participated here this evening, our 5 umpires and coordinators. In closing, needless to say, we look forward to doing this again later this year, celebrating the umpires who went out this season. They worked hard, they excelled on and off the field, and recently received a phone call from Don Umland or Scott Taylor letting them know they were now part of the exclusive College World Series umpire fraternity. What a great phone call to receive. Again, thanks to everyone who participated and everyone who watched our special virtual event here this evening. Good night.